Welcome to Ravenloft. A scream shatters the still gloom. Inhuman shapes slip between crumbling tombs. The shadows reach forth. Do instincts and imagination conspire against you? Or have otherworldly evils claimed you, drawing you into the mists of Ravenloft? In hidden corners of the Shadowfell are nightmare domains that hunger for the brave and the innocent, the ambitious and the wicked. Some call this collection of eerie realms the Land of the Mists, but monster hunters know it as Ravenloft. Terror, magic, mystery, and suspense fill these fractured domains, an infinite gallery of unfolding evils, age-old plots, cursed bloodlines, legendary monsters, and immortal villains. Evildoers from countless worlds regard Ravenloft as their prison. Infamous figures such as the Lich King Aslan Rex, the unscrupulous scientist Victra Mordheim, and the diabolical first vampire Strahd von Zarovich. These dark lords wield incredible power within their isolated domains, yet they are held captive in eternal torment as victims of malign forces known as the Dark Powers. Ravenloft is a fundamentally magical realm, one that takes its name from its most infamous haunted location, the dreaded castle Ravenloft in Barovia, home of the notorious Strahd von Zarovich. In this mysterious setting, the land, the passage of time, the tides, and every other reliable truth can shift unpredictably. Rather than being bound by proximity or politics, the lands of Ravenloft, also known as the Domains of Dread, are mist-bound islands drifting through the boundless gloom of the Shadowfell. Innumerable domains lie hidden within these supernatural mists, and of these secret realms, the most terrifying are those born of your nightmares and given grim life through your adventures. Although Ravenloft is a setting of storied evils, the domains aren't without heroes. Brave souls such as the investigator Esmeralda d'Avenir, the monster-hunting Weathermay Foxgrove sisters, and the scholar Rudolph von Richten explore the domain's secrets. Though few in number, such adventurers represent defiant lights that shine like beacons through the darkness, and characters from all lands and worlds may be eager or compelled to challenge the sinister forces lurking in the shadows. The mists of Ravenloft arising, what mysteries will you discover among the domains of dread? What nightmares will you shape? And once you enter the mists, will you ever escape? Using this book. This book explores the domains of dread, the mysterious expanses of the Shadowfell that serve as backdrops for excitement and terror. It guides players and dungeon masters through the process of creating characters, domains, and stories ripe for chilling D&D adventures. Chapter 1 details how players can create characters primed for fright-filled adventures. It presents options for lineages and backgrounds that provide ominous paths for any character, as well as dark gifts and subclasses to shape their fates. Chapter 2 explores how dungeon masters can create their own new dark lords and domains, custom-made foundations for fear heightening the creators' and players' favorite types of terrors. Chapter 3 provides an overview of dozens of Ravenloft's domains, along with details on the characters and adventures found in these haunted lands. Chapter 4 offers tools for dungeon masters running frightening adventures, from rules for creating curses and running out-of-body experiences to advice for building safe, suspenseful campaigns. It also includes an atmospheric adventure to draw characters into Ravenloft's fearful grip. Chapter 5 details how to make any foe into a notorious terror, as well as a collection of monsters that roam the domains of dread and other D&D worlds.
Dr. Van Richten, I'm writing this from Rivalis, a town where I'm surprised to find your name in the villagers' lips. You're more than merely a well-remembered citizen, Doctor. The folk here talk of disappearances and hungry shadows and the evil of an abandoned estate, Richten House. This place, the crimes and tragedies that transpired here, I know we'd both rather forget them, this whole accursed land, but the mist drew me back. Now that I'm here, I know the past we both hope to bury is not done with us yet. Something terrible festers here in Darkhan, sir, lurking in your own family home. My investigations began with the sealing of this letter. This time, I hope our families can stand together against whatever haunts us both. Yours, Ez the Avenir.
Horror in your game. Ominous shadows rise beyond the campfire's light. Steps echo through the halls of a supposedly empty house. Something whispers from under the stairs. Such details fill horror tales, but what place do they have in your D&D game? As a DM, you determine what place horror has in your adventures. Consider the following topics and how this book can aid you in determining the role of suspense in your game. Foundations for fears. Facing frightening creatures and venturing into the unknown are staples for both D&D adventures and horror stories. This book explores how to interweave suspense and mystery with familiar features of D&D, creating gloom so that your hero's light shines all that brighter. Genres of horror. Horror comes in broad varieties. You and your players decide what types of horror stories are right for your group. Do you prefer gothic moodiness, mind-bending mysteries, or something else entirely? Use this book to discover your group's perfect horror experience and how to bring it to life through your adventures. Creating atmosphere. Threatening traps and monsters alone don't create exciting D&D adventures. This book provides techniques to help you build atmosphere, a pervading mood for your game that encourages immersion and suspense. Thrills you control. Like a roller coaster, exploring frightening themes in a safe environment creates thrills without threat. Use this book to help you and your players communicate about a game's rules, plots, and other content, assuring it includes only the elements you all enjoy. Focus on fun. Suspenseful stories don't need to be somber or shocking. Action, mystery, and comedy can feature in your adventure to any degree. Heroes can be bold monster hunters or bumbling mystery solvers. Choose what elements of this book are right for your game and promise the most fun for all players. Uncle Rudolph. We continue our pursuit of that were-wretch, Natalia Vavorshkov. Before she fled our last confrontation, she shed a cord threaded through a wolf's tooth. Laurie used the talisman as you and Uncle George taught us, and it guided us through the mist to Skald, a quaint music-loving place in the land called Kartakas. The folk here are hospitable, fawning, actually. They hang on our every word. I've escaped their attentions by sequestering myself in our room at a local taverna, while Laurie overindulges in attention for both of us. We found no trace of Vavorshkov since arriving, but I feel her watching. It's like she's everywhere. It's bad here, Uncle. Not snake-headed hogs bad, like full de monster plant peasants bad. I've enclosed the tooth we followed here. If this message finds you free and well, your presence and perspective would be an enormous comfort. Your devoted students, Jennifer and Laurie Weathermay Foxgrove. 7 Secrets of Ravenloft. Countless mysteries pervade the domains of dread, but these strange truths underpin the setting. 1. Ravenloft is not a world. The lands and characters of Ravenloft don't share a planet. Rather, the domains of dread consist of an innumerable demiplanes hidden amid the plane of shadow. Mysterious mists surround each of these island realms. The bravest souls might creep from one domain to another, but doing so involves considerable danger, and many who enter the mists are never seen again. 2. Dark powers control all. Sinister entities known as the Dark Powers manipulate the domains of dread and all who dwell within. Immortal, unknowable, and omnipotent, the Dark Powers revel in sowing terror and subtly manipulating their captives over the course of generations. Number 3. Domains imprison Dark Lords. Ravenloft's demiplanes range in size from solitary structures to vast regions. These domains serve as prisons of the Dark Lords, villainous beings trapped and tormented by the Dark Powers. The specifics of each domain exist to ironically twist its Dark Lord's desires, capturing them and their land's residents in cycles of dread and despair. Think of it like a video game level where you have the land leading up to the boss room. Something like Death Mountain from Legend of Zelda, where the final boss room is on the very top of the volcano. Number 4. The mists encompass all. Supernatural haze suffuses the domains of dread. These are the mists of Ravenloft. Ominous fogs that gird each domain, rising and falling as the Dark Powers desire. Tales attribute ominous powers to the mists, from cloaking monsters to causing entire villages to vanish. The mists are not bound to Ravenloft and slip across the plains, potentially dragging anyone into the domains of dread. Number 5. Nowhere is safe. The mists of Ravenloft are notorious for kidnapping innocent souls and trapping them within the domains of dread, but they also collect the characters to participate in specific terrifying adventures. Ravenloft can claim a soul for one night of terror or for an inescapable nightmare, whichever suits the needs of your adventures. Number 6. Heroes confront horrors. Ravenloft is not a land of heroes. Few seek out danger in the mists or challenge Dark Lords. Fear and forces within characters themselves, potentially in the form of rare lineages or dark gifts, threaten personal dooms. Yet, those who face these terrors shine as lights amid the mists, beacons to attract other heroes, but also greater threats. Number 7. Only fear is certain. The domains of dread provide malleable settings for any kind of horror adventure. As domains are unmoored from conventional reality, anything can happen within their borders. Normal people undergo terrifying transformations, whole villages disappear unnoticed, and the mists bar every method of escaping a threat. Any surreal development you desire is also the will of the Dark Powers, assuring that the most terrifying possibilities come to pass. As a result, even the most familiar faces, races, magic items, and monsters in the Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Monster Manual have places in Ravenloft, but with twists that make them creepy or mysterious. The Land of the Mists. Although the domains of dread are dramatically different, certain realities underpin their efforts. The nature of domains, the influence of Dark Lords, the mysteries of the mists, and the machinations of the Dark Powers present a wealth of ominous possibilities. All these elements share a shadowy uncertainty and the potential for terror to take on unpredictable forms. The following sections are written for you, the DM, to consider and incorporate into your adventures as you see fit. If you wish to reveal the core mysteries of Ravenloft to your players and explore the land of the mists with shared knowledge, by all means, do so. Alternatively, You can cultivate dread by leaving the fundamental truths of the world vague or defined by your group's theories. Deep shadows immerse the domains of dread. Whether you cast light on them or leave them an inky mystery, their potential for terror remains endless. This section provides an overview of the dreadful forces at work in Ravenloft, elements the following chapters explore as tools for crafting horror adventures. For details on specific domains of dread and interactions between these realms, see Chapter 3. Nightmare Logic. By the standards of what other worlds' inhabitants consider true and sane, the domains of dread don't make sense. The setting's domains don't neatly flow into one another, histories don't record a collectively remembered past, fiction spawn terrible facts, and sheltered villages remain stubbornly ignorant about the world beyond. Ravenloft is a setting designed to cultivate uncertainty, mystery, paranoia, and dread in defiance of logic or common sense. The characters in your Ravenloft adventures might be the first to inquire after obvious inconsistencies or to notice plain impossibilities. But why has no one before them sought answers to such unignorable questions? The dark powers, the mists, and the nature of domains and dark lords all claim part of the answer, but ultimately they reflect aspects of the same cause, nightmare logic. Ravenloft is inherently a vast nightmare. Most of those who experience its terrors never suspect its surreal nature. Only a few gradually realize that things don't add up. Whether they do or don't, the setting's supernatural features and malicious masterminds exist to foster terror. The details described in this section are true, but truth is malleable in Ravenloft. The exact limits of the Dark Power's influence, the Mist's reach, and the Dark Lord's control over the domains are purposefully vague. As with any nightmare, the domains of dread aren't shackled to the laws of reality. Domains exist not to stimulate a believable world, but to terrify. This flexibility provides a powerful tool to upend assumptions of safety and tailor your character's struggles. It also encourages layers of mysteries about the nature of the setting. Is each domain unique, or just one series of recurring nightmares? How many forms of Castle Ravenloft exist, have existed, or yet will reveal themselves in the mist? What is truth among the domains of dread, and how long will that remain uncertain? The answers are for you to decide. This book gives characters nightmares. Ravenloft is a setting designed to bring nightmares to life, for characters, not for players. While the land of the mists is rife with sinister plots and terrifying tales, they're meant to stay within the world of your game, not to prey upon the fears of players. Chapter 4 details ways to make sure you're crafting adventures that are spooky in ways your players will enjoy. Chapter 1 also provides guidance for players so that they can work together to create horror experiences that are safe and fun for the entire group. Revisit these considerations and safety tools often until they're just as much as a part of the game as character sheets and dice. Content warning. With this in mind, be aware that this book contains suggestions for adventures meant to be horrifying. While these plots are no more explicit than those you might find in any other Dungeons & Dragons product, the horror genre in all its myriad forms is explored, from moody gothic horror and ghost stories to visceral body horror and mind-bending cosmic horror. Chapter 2 explores how to choose the horror themes that are right for your game, but read on your own discretion. The Dark Powers. Unfathomable hidden forces manipulate life, death, and reality within Ravenloft. These mysterious, deathless beings are the architects of the domains of dread, and have secreted those pockets of terror deep within the plane of shadow. The Dark Powers watch and influence events within their domain, When their gaze drifts, they reach into other planes to collect heroes and villains to add to their terrifying menagerie. To what end, no one knows. The dark powers don't move in the shadows of Ravenloft. They are the shadows. They're the mists and the darkness. They're the reason water manifests as rivers and stars appear in skies divorced from universes. They are the wardens that hold Dark Lords prisoner, ever present and inscrutable. The dark powers are akin to gods in Ravenloft, but they are unknown to mortals and desire no worship. Despite the control the dark powers exert, these beings remain distant from the domains they manipulate, although some of their names whisper through sinister lore, names like Osibus, Shame Amunore, and Tenebros. Domain inhabitants know almost nothing of the dark powers, while some dark lords realize they're imprisoned by antagonistic entities. Discourse regarding the dark powers remains the province of soothsayers, obsessed scholars, and otherworldly beings. Anyone who spreads tales of the sinister forces manipulating reality is ignored or worse. For residents of Ravenloft, ignorance provides a well-defended shelter against unfathomable truths. The secret of the dark powers. The true nature of the dark powers is for you to decide. How you perceive these forces can influence your view of their actions and agendas, who they abduct into Ravenloft, and why. Through your adventures, you might reveal these mysteries and use them to hint at ways to escape the domains of dread. Consider the following possibilities when developing your perspective on the dark powers. Amoral guardians. The dark powers are a group of powerful beings who believe they're beyond morality. They identify dangerous individuals and imprison them within the domains of dread, where they ostensibly do less harm than they would if they were free. Those trapped along with the Dark Lords are acceptable sacrifices. Evil architects. The dark powers are embodiments of evil, mysterious entities of the plane of shadow, or a conspiracy of wicked gods. They treat the denizens of the domains of dread as their playthings, sowing fears and fermenting despair. This pleases or sustains them, or perhaps they're searching for individuals worthy of joining the ranks. Undying remnants. The dark powers are all that remain of a multitude of vanquished evil deities and demigods. Traces of their power linger in amber sarcophagi scattered throughout the domains of dread. These diminished vestiges manipulate the realm to create negative forces that sustain their essence and build toward renewed apotheosis.
Rudolph. I wrote you in the throes of the most perplexing case. Here in Port Lucine, we pride ourselves on our rationality. Good detectives are best served by a clear-headed reason and keen observation, and a clean flintlock, my dear Arthur would add. You know, I'm not prone to superstition or mystical flights of fancy, yet that's exactly what my recent experience has led me to. When these keepers of the feathers first hired me, I took them for a social club of eccentric dilettantes. When they claimed someone was trying to murder them, I tried not to dismiss it as an imaginative paranoia. Now, though, I know something wants these spiritualists dead, and that this murder might be dead themselves. Have you heard of the Mill Road Hags, Doctor? Arthur and I invited you to fair Dementulia, Dr. Rudolph. Please, when you come, bring any notes you didn't publish in Van Richten's Guide to Witches. Yours in reason, Alanic Ray, and Dr. Arthur Sedgwick.
The Mists. Known throughout Ravenloft, the mists are manifestations of the dark power's will. They divide, surround, and isolate every domain, creating fog-shrouded borders that imprison dark lords within their territories. The mists slip through the domains of dread, rising to claim unwitted travelers or releasing terrors upon unsuspecting villagers. Most infamously, The mists slither into other worlds to claim innocence, villains, or whole lands, dragging them back to become the newest prisons of Ravenloft. Inhabitants of the domains of dread know of the mists and ascribe sinister stories to them, but they accept the mists as a natural part of their homeland. Many who travel between domains even refer to their world as the land of the mists. Any supernatural happening, inexplicable disappearance, or malicious force can be blamed on the mists, and those who interact with the mists or who come from beyond them are met with suspicion. The mists confound travel between domains, whether one wishes to leave a place or reach another land or to escape the realm they're in. Beyond these truths, the mists are your tool to establish the boundaries of your horror stories. See the Nature of Ravenloft section in Chapter 3 for details on employing the mists to focus your horror adventures, leading characters to engage with certain elements while cloaking others in mystery. Domains. Sinister demiplanes known as domains constitute the realms of Ravenloft. These domains vary widely, but they share a number of common features. Domains are finite. The domains vary in size from countries or geographic regions to a single city, structure, mobile convenience, or a specific location. Domains are isolated. Each domain is surrounded by the mists, its boundaries fading away into haze. Domains share neither borders nor common geography, and you can't peer from one domain into another. The environments, cultures, and residents of one domain don't influence those of other domains. Domains hold Dark Lords. Domains exist to contain and torment a villain. Though Dark Lords exert control over their domains, they are each tormented by a personal terror playing out in their specific realm. Domains are cages. Those who run afoul of a Dark Lord might find that the mists prevent them from leaving the villain's domain. Like a haunted house that conveniently seals its doors or summons a deadly storm, so do domains create inescapable spaces where horror adventures unfold. Domains are themed. Each domain reflects its Dark Lord and facilitates horror tales related to that villain. Just as creepy manners suit ghostly inhabitants, so does each domain inspire and encourage a distinct type of terror. Details on how to create your own domains appear in Chapter 2, while Chapter 3 describes some of the most notorious domains of dread. Cultivating hope. In Ravenloft, the dark powers control reality. The mists foil escape attempts, and terrifying Dark Lords can appear at any moment. What hope do heroes have against such overwhelming evils? The nature of Ravenloft provides powerful tools to craft tales of terror. Shifting reality, inescapable danger, and foes with shocking powers are useful for creating horror adventures, a topic further discussed in Chapter 4. As a balancing factor, use these tools judiciously and occasionally in the character's favor. The dark powers delight in tormenting villains as much as they do innocents. The mists equally confound both predators and prey. The Dark Lords frequently exhibit hubris or other exploitable flaws. Use Ravenloft's nature to sow dread, but also to inspire hope. Relentless despair gradually beats characters down and takes the fun out of adventures. Punctuate your horror tales with moments of relief, comedy, and fortuitous coincidences. These moments of hope help characters push through the dark to the thrill of dawn. Dark Lords. Central to each domain is a Dark Lord, the seed from which a thorny thicket blooms. The villain might be a nation's leader, a prominent citizen, a notorious monster, a mysterious recluse, or a seemingly innocuous character. Regardless of the Dark Lord's current role, Their wickedness led to the creation of their domain and their imprisonment in Ravenloft. Though these individuals vary widely, and exceptions occur, Dark Lords share a number of qualities. Dark Lords are evil. Each Dark Lord is the ultimate villain of a domain and the root of the suffering and terror that unfold there. Dark Lords are prisoners. Dark Lords cannot leave their domains. If a Dark Lord enters the Mists or uses another method to attempt an escape, the Dark Powers return them to their domain. Even death rarely allows a Dark Lord to escape their prison for long. Dark Lords are tormented. Every domain torments its Dark Lord in a poignant way tied ironically to their past crimes, failures, or unattainable ambitions. Dark Lords influence domains. Although Dark Lords hate their domains, they exert considerable control over them. This might be the influence of a governmental leader, the magic of a supernatural overlord, or a more fundamental connection. Most possess the ability to prevent others from leaving their domains, further explored in The Nature of Ravenloft in Chapter 3. Dark Lords vary in threat. Dark Lords range from monstrous tyrants to depraved individuals who otherwise appear as ordinary people. A Dark Lord's position and powers stem from their deeds, not their game statistics. While some Dark Lords are deadly or possess foul gifts from the Dark Powers, many pose little threat in battle. Their menace is the result of capabilities beyond physical prowess. Dark Lords are active. Dark Lords might brood over their failures, but nevertheless they relentlessly strive to achieve their ambitions. Their desperate struggles fuel their conflicts with characters. Liberally use Dark Lords in your adventures rather than saving them for distant, climactic plots. Dark Lords don't realize they're Dark Lords. With a few exceptions, Dark Lords don't realize they occupy a special place in the world. Their agendas, obsessions, and egotism distract them from focusing on the strangeness of the world and petty concerns such as eerie fog. Dark Lords are immortal. Dark Lords are casually immortal, many having no concept of how long they've lived, how many times they've died, or why they returned to life. Should a Dark Lord fall, the temporary defeat lasts until they're restored by the Dark Powers. In their absence, those who sought to escape or supplement them seize their chance. Adventurers. The domains of dread don't typically breed heroes. For the inhabitants of most domains, simply surviving the night is an act of courage. Those willing to confront the terrors of the Mists are rare, but when they do, they have one of the following origins. Mist Wanderers. The Mists reach into this character's worlds and drag them into the domains of dread. Whether these adventurers are trapped in Ravenloft for a night or an eternity, their spirits mark them as outsiders, but also as rare beacons in the endless darkness. Roused locals. Some shock-jarred, these unusual individuals from the apathy pervasive to the land of the mists. Witnesses to evil, these characters will never know the solace of ignorance again. Chapter 3 explores details on creating characters unique to various domains. Adventurers find few peers in the land of the mists. While there are exceptions, many of whom are illustrated throughout this book and detailed in Chapter 3, such individuals are few and their lives are often short. Guilds of adventurers and shops catering to the needs generally don't exist. As a result, the challenge of confronting evil rests squarely with a few rare souls. Read on to Chapter 1 for details on creating your own haunted heroes. My friends, I send this on ahead of me with capable souls I'm paying enough to trust. I received your last letter pre-opened. Whatever eyes are fixed on you might be keener than you fear. Tomorrow, I depart on an expedition, one that can't be delayed, perhaps the most important of my life. Thus, I won't be joining you in as timely a manner as I'd like. In my stead, I've sent enough coin to ensure these messengers assistance and silence for even the most daunting work. I'm also sending an apology, one this might be my last chance to make. There are 1,000 times I wish I'd been better, when I should have spoken not from the past but from the heart. I'm sorry I wasn't more patient, and that I never told you how often your bravery and wit dazzled me, and still do. As Lori, Jennifer, Alanic, Arthur, you're all I have left of family. I haven't said enough, but I love you all like my own. For what it's worth, I consider you all Van Richtens now. My name is yours to use as you please. I pray it brings you more joy than it's brought me. But whatever name you use, I know you'll carry it as a candle to ward off the shadows. Always, Dr. Rudolph Van Richten.